Community members make their voices heard on possible squeegee fixes, but we can't show you what happened, the extremes organizers went to prevent anybody from recording the meeting. West Baltimore residents are still skeptical of their water safety.
I would like for the mayor to drink this water.
How city leaders are responding to the challenge to drink the water themselves. Wednesday brings the final hearing ahead of the Marilyn Mosby trial, why one side may ask for another delay.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
40 years of squeegee kids on Baltimore streets, and tonight an effort to break that cycle. Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. A meeting allowing community members to speak up about kids standing at roadways and corners cleaning windshields for money just wrapped up. But cameras weren't allowed at this meeting.
That's right. Fox 45 Jeff Abel attended, though. Jeff, were you able to, and what were you able to gather from this meeting?
Well, we would actually like to show you what happened at the meeting, but it turns out the city barred all recording devices from coming inside. It seems the squeegee kids who talked at tonight's meeting had no interest in being on camera.
Our city is on life support.
Kenny Ebron came to New Shiloh Baptist Church tonight with a message of his own.
And here we have one of the biggest churches in the city of Baltimore talking about how to deal with squeegee kids. How do we deal with the murders that's happening in our city of Baltimore?
The church opened its doors tonight to the mayor's Squeegee Collaborative, a group of business and civic leaders who are attempting to develop a strategy aimed at keeping squeegee kids out of city intersections. Tonight, they opened the doors to community input.
Today is our first day that we're opening it up to community input. We want to make sure that we're hearing directly from constituents about what they want to see, they don't want to see, and how we can collectively get there.
But barred from this public meeting were cameras and recording devices. City workers kept watch to ensure none of it got recorded.
We have young people who have asked us if we participate, it has to be on the condition that we don't have the media.
The young people said they don't want the cameras in there, but they got elders that's out there saying we don't want our windows washed.
Reverend Willie Ray is a member of the collaborative.
Are you okay with them banning any kind of recording device at this meeting?
Not really. I think it needs to be shared. I think the community needs a rude awakening.
Inside, about 150 people listened as 4 squeegee kids explained why they squeegee. One of them admitting it's tax-free money where there are no rules. Business owner Beth Hawks has attempted to land other jobs for squeegee kids.
We have a lot of jobs ready for them in either restaurants, construction, all sorts of jobs, and they're just not coming back to where we're, hey, call me, text me, and then I see them on the street corner.
The number one question was, why are we not implementing the laws that's already on a book?
Many people who came to this 2-hour meeting left with questions still unanswered.
I felt secluded, that this was just, a show.
Kenny Ebron believes his message may have fallen on deaf ears too.
We got 242 murders in our city of Baltimore, but yet we out here for 2 hours talking about damn squeegee children.
Also absent from tonight's meeting was Mayor Brandon Scott. A spokeswoman says the mayor feared his appearance could distract from what they hoped would be an honest and open conversation. We are live tonight. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
All right, Jeff, thank you. Baltimore police tonight tell us they have received hundreds of squeegee-related calls for service since July. Fox 45 News has seen video from our viewers showing heated interactions with squeegee kids. Now, some of those encounters have led to physical fights or squeegee kids damaging cars, oftentimes ripping off windshield wipers. In July, a squeegee kid was charged with shooting and killing Timothy Reynolds. Police say Reynolds got out of his car and confronted a group of them with a bat. Mayor Brandon Scott and City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby have both said they won't clear the streets of squeegee kids, but there are laws in place to keep them out of intersections. Right now, the police department is using overtime to patrol some squeegee intersections, despite the police commissioner acknowledging that plan is not sustainable. The police department told Fox 45 they have no plans to pull the officers back.
On Monday, Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby is set to stand trial on 4 federal charges, but there could be a delay. Tomorrow, her side, as well as federal prosecutors, will take part in their final pretrial hearing. We are awaiting a big decision on expert witnesses. Today, federal prosecutors told the court Mosby's team did not disclose their experts by the July 1st deadline, so prosecutors are asking the court to exclude the testimony. If not, prosecutors say the trial date should be moved. Now, prosecutors also want to bring up statements Mosby has made in the past about her travel businesses. Mosby and her spokesperson both said in 2020 that these travel businesses were not operational. During last week's pretrial hearing, Mosby's defense team said the businesses took a hit during the pandemic, and that's how she qualified to take out money over her retirement account without paying a penalty. Right now, Marilyn Mosby is facing 2 counts of perjury and 2 counts of making a false statement on a loan application. We'll stay with Fox 45 News for continuing coverage. Our Mackenzie Frost will be inside the courtroom tomorrow. She'll have updates on air and online at foxbaltimore.com.
It's been 5 days since Baltimore leaders declared an E. coli contamination is over. Now, leaders have not revealed the source of the bacteria at this time. Keith Daniels is live right now after hearing from some residents who are concerned about drinking that city water. Keith?
Well, Kai, the mayor's office tells me the mayor and his administration are trying to determine now what worked well in that incident and what areas may need some improvement. But tonight, for one resident, there's one main concern: her drinking water and her challenge to the mayor. In Harlem Park, skepticism still lingering. Some residents wary of the water in their homes. Families with tentative use of the tap.
I don't wash my dishes with it. I don't drink it.
Lasting reaction after the E. coli water contamination in the area last week. Denise Knight, a 64-year-old woman known in the neighborhood as Miss D, says she too is among the cautious.
I'm not drinking the water yet.
Talking from her upstairs window on Calhoun Street, Knight says she watched news reports of Mayor Brandon Scott lifting the boil water advisory last Friday after test results of the water in the impacted area came back negative. The water in homes cleared for use. But for Knight, she's not buying it.
Because he haven't gave me any facts, any proof. Where is it? I mean, they're still working on the pipes.
But Knight told us one thing could possibly convince her.
I would like for the mayor to drink this water. And if he he can come over and have a glass of water with me.
We took Knight's challenge to the mayor, reached out to his office and to council members, including Councilman John Bullock, who represents Knight's district. Sent an email saying in part, "This is a serious story as we continue to voice residents' concerns. You are invited to drink the water in the affected area to show residents that you consider the water safe." No council members responded, but the mayor's office did, with a statement from spokesperson Monica Lewis that reads in part, "Mayor Scott will not engage in any stunts or theatrics, but rather he will continue to work with his administration to ensure that the random testing and the investigation into what may have caused this incident continues." Meantime, Knight's invitation to the mayor remains open.
Yes, just have a glass of water with me. And you first.
Well, Knight says for now she'll continue to use bottled water, and she and her neighbors also had concerns about that tonight.
Man, people come still want the waters. They telling people they can't get no waters. And they got all them waters sitting over there, ain't doing nothing.
Well, several stacks of bottled water are sitting right across the street from Knight's home at the Harlem Park Recreation Center. Now, that was the site of one of the water distribution locations in the area, but the city suspended distribution services Friday with the lift of the boil water advisory, and residents are being told they can no longer get the water. But the water is still there at the location, with DPW's private security company keeping watch until the water can be picked up. Now, officials told me today that the water will be picked up and stored for other emergencies. We're live tonight. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Okay, Keith, thank you. Well, last week, Fox 45 spoke with a current employee at DPW. We're not showing his face or letting you hear his actual voice because that employee is afraid of retaliation. He told us that the results of the city's water tests may not be accurate because the city's process isn't always random.
I think I compare it to doing a poll. If you're always polling the same people, you tend to get the same answers. Sounds like the bare minimum that is now being put in place because this has been put out publicly.
Well, the employee also complained that to allay any concerns, the city should bring a firm inside, independent of the city, to perform the water probe. A city spokeswoman told Fox 45 the city is confident the water is safe because they follow all protocol prescribed by the state.
For the third time, we told you we are out of service per EMS2 for relief. I'm completely prepared to tell my driver to disembark, and I will drive this thing in Inner Harbor.
Disturbing radio traffic makes the rounds on social media, showing Baltimore first responders at wit's end. That audio from an EMT with the Baltimore City Fire Department threatening to send an ambulance into the Inner Harbor. Maxine Stryker speaks with a union, and they say it is a clear sign their members are overworked and at their breaking point.
The audio circulating on social media, confirmed to us by several fire officials, highlights a very serious problem within the fire department, one that's been festering for years and officials say is only getting worse.
For the third time, we told you we are out of service per EMS2 for relief.
It's shocking Baltimore City Fire Department radio traffic making the rounds on social media between an EMT and fire communications that ends with a threat.
I'm completely prepared to tell my driver to disembark, and I will drive this thing in Inner Harbor.
The EMS worker repeating he's out of service before saying he'll drive the ambulance into the Inner Harbor. Rich Langford, president of the Baltimore Firefighters Local 734 Union, says this is a clear sign that some members are at their breaking point.
Absolutely. I'm not going to comment on the video directly, but I would say the morale of this department is like that of a sinking ship. It can't get any worse.
Langford says the issue is staffing, and it's nothing new.
Members are completely fatigued. They're completely at their breaking point, and there's no end to this in sight. They're working multiple overtime shifts every week just to keep the department afloat.
With a vacancy rate of close to 10%, Langford says on the EMS side, they're currently short over 40 paramedics and well over 100 firefighters.
It costs the taxpayers overtime. It puts a strain on the fire department's budget.
The city's EMS system is the busiest per capita in the United States, according to Langford, and the staffing shortages ultimately aren't just costing taxpayer money, but affecting response times, too. Last year, we reported a 12-year-old girl hit by a car had to wait 50 minutes in East Baltimore for a transport to the hospital.
It causes areas come from different areas across the city, so you create holes as you go along.
And there are times the department is so short-staffed, some fire companies are forced to close.
If the Baltimore City Fire Department is a ship amongst the sea of problems, staffing is looking like a tidal wave coming at us that we need to avoid.
Josh Fannin is the president of the Local 964 Baltimore Fire Officers Union and is also expressing just how bad staffing is. He says the shortages are affecting members' mental health.
I think that the additional work hours, overtime, it does take its toll on the mental health of our members, but one of the things with mental health is you have to address the problem or it's going to continue. So if the problem is brought on by additional work hours, then we need to address that.
So this audio?
I'm completely prepared to tell my driver to disembark, and I will drive this thing in Inner Harbor.
Is no laughing matter. We also reached directly out to the fire department for comment. They tell us this is a disciplinary matter, so they are unable to comment. In Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Next on Fox 45 News at 10, as violence spikes, an attempt to get answers about safe streets. What organizers have said the city tells them to do when Fox 45 News asks questions. A crackdown on street racing and car rallies passed by the city council remains in purgatory. We ask why the mayor is yet to sign it and what it would take for the law to actually work.
We're in for a gorgeous forecast over the next few days as our dew points go from the comfortable range to the pleasant range. I'll let you know how high temperatures will be coming up.
And at 10:30, we are edging closer to a strike that would halt 2 of Mark's 3 rail lines. The union demands and what it would take to avoid a commuter nightmare.
Fox 45 News, winner of 17 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
A man was shot and killed this morning near Patterson Park. Police say around 7:30 they received a report of a man shot in the head. When officers arrived, that man was dead. Councilman Zeke Cohen, who represents that area, came to the crime scene.
It is unbelievably frustrating at 7:30 in the morning. What sounds initially like a fight and discharging escalates into someone losing their life. It is beyond unacceptable, but it's also just 7:30 a.m. Why are we doing this?
Well, that man was the 247th person killed in Baltimore this year, exactly 10 more than this point last year. The number of shooting survivors is also up. Now, Fox 45 News continues to investigate Safe Streets, a city program meant to help prevent violent crime.
Tonight, it's unclear if the program is really working. Mackenzie Frost examines the unanswered questions.
Looking into Safe Streets has really been an uphill battle. Remember that we have these community-based organizations that operate these Safe Streets locations. Now, each CBO, as they're called, like Living Classrooms, Catholic Charities, Life Bridge, Park Heights Renaissance, they all get their money to operate these 10 different locations from the city itself. But getting information out of these organizations has really been a challenge. But we do know that these organizations are in charge of certain things when it comes to operating these Safe Streets locations. Let me show you. The CBOs keep track of, quote, overall oversight, human resources, and employee services for Safe Streets staff, along with data reporting, data collection, management, and review. And keep that in mind, because we do know that these CBOs, they have a contract with the city to operate these locations, right? But the CBOs have told us that the city has told them not to talk to the media about Safe Streets or the operations. So now we have even more questions. So here's what's next. We have more questions for these community-based organizations. We want to know information about the data reporting and collection. We want to see a list of all of the employees who work at the Safe Streets locations, what their schedules are, and who are their supervisors. We also want to know more information about the training schedules, the budget for those trainings, and who's in charge of organizing it. Then we also want to know what the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement's oversight role is. Remember, this office, MONSE, that's the agency within city government that's operating Safe Streets itself. And if the city doesn't have all of this information, why not? They are the ones working with these community-based organizations to implement this program, the same program that we hear time and time again is a pivotal player in the mayor's anti-violence plan that he talks about all the time. We also want to know information about the site supervisors because we have gone to all of these Safe Streets locations, really not finding hardly anyone who's there. We know that the Safe Streets locations say that these supervisors are supposed to be there during normal business hours, but that's not really reality, at least from what we have learned going out looking for ourselves. So where's the oversight in all of this? And what's the purpose of Monzi if all of these agencies aren't working together to make sure that these programs are really working? So once again, we've asked to sit down with the director of Monzi, Shantae Jackson, to talk about all of this and her oversight role. We've asked multiple times to sit down with Jackson to talk about this for the last several months throughout her investigation, but that never happened. So we're asking again, and we'll see. I want to know what you've seen in your community. Have you ever seen Safe Streets employees talking or engaging with other people in the area? Have you seen employees going in and out of these Safe Streets locations? Or do you think you have a tip that we need to investigate about Safe Streets? Well, send it to me directly at safestreetstips@gmail.com. At the Accountability Desk, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
And take a look at this. We possibly have found the end of the rainbow.
That's right. Our viewer Sharon sent us this picture from Owings Mills. This is the McDonough School Roots Farm. That is beautiful. And there's a pot of gold somewhere out there.
Somewhere out there, Mary.
Field, right?
Some leprechaun has it.
We're thinking
now.
that was from yesterday, too, with all those storms that came
right.
through.
Oh, it was just a mess. It was very warm, and you mentioned very humid as well. But we've had a nice change today. It's been so nice.
And Jasmine, we want to welcome Mary back. We haven't had our regular thing, and she's been out for a while, as you know. So welcome back, Mary.
Thank you, guys.
It's so good to have you back.
I'm glad I'm back. I missed you, too. And
we did miss you.
And I mean, we're welcoming you back with great weather.
Yeah,
that is right.
It's going to stick around for the next few days. So we're really looking at a great forecast. Today's temperatures were in the upper 70s and the low 80s. And it really wasn't that humid, especially compared to yesterday. We also stayed dry and will be like that over the next few days. Current temperatures sit at 70 with partly cloudy skies and winds out of the west-northwest around 9 miles per hour. Temperatures across the state are in the 50s, the 60s, and even the 70s in some areas. Annapolis, one of the higher spots, currently at 72. Ocean City currently at 68. But overall, not too bad. These numbers will continue to fall overnight. We're looking at low temperatures in the upper 50s and the low 60s, so that means that you may need a light jacket as you head outside, especially if you live in western Maryland. That's where we expect to find the coolest temperatures, but by the afternoon, highs reach the 80s. We'll stay in the low 80s over the next few days, but we have the return of hot summer-like weather next week. I'll let you know just how hot it gets coming up in my Weather Authority forecast. Back to you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Fox 45 News wants you to share your weather pictures and videos with us. Go to our website, foxbaltimore.com/chime in. You can submit your content through the free WBFF mobile app. Baltimore City Council passes a bill cracking down on street racers and spectators when Mayor Scott could sign that bill into law. The CDC has just issued a warning for parents about a rare condition that could be on the rise this fall. Medical reporter Liz Bonas shares what pediatricians want us to know about it.
Hey there, everybody. Healthcare providers say they want to alert but not alarm when it comes to the CDC warning about this rare condition.
It comes from some common respiratory viruses that circulate this time of year.
Rhinoviruses and enteroviruses are two viruses that are indistinguishable when you test for them.
Those who do test for them usually associate them with the common cold or GI bugs. This year, however, the CDC issuing this alert because they've seen a higher proportion compared to previous years of what's called enterovirus D68. It's been associated with more severe respiratory illness and a complication known as acute flaccid myelitis, or AFM. It generally starts by causing weakness in a child's arms or legs and can lead to permanent paralysis and be life-threatening.
Weakness usually in little kids, they maybe stop moving one of their limbs, or they are having difficulty doing their normal tasks.
Pediatric infectious disease specialist Dr. Elizabeth Shodlecker of Ohio's Cincinnati Children's Hospital is part of a national surveillance team that tracks these types of illnesses in children.
Was there an average age?
They can be seen in all ages, but the average that's been reported thus far is around 3 years of age.
Dr. Shodlecker says most kids do recover from EV D68 with no treatment. But prolonged fever, respiratory illness, or fatigue and muscle weakness should be given medical attention.
Now again, 7 to 10 days where symptoms get worse instead of better. That's the time to reach out to your family physician. I'm medical reporter Liz Bonas. Now back to you.
The Orioles make a trip down the other beltway to face the Nationals. Morgan Atzett has more on where the Birds stand in their postseason push. Baltimore leaders are getting ready to crack down on street racers, their latest effort, and whether it will work.
A new inflation report throwing cold water on the idea that prices were finally coming down. I'm Atrell Nashar with a look at what's getting more expensive.
Just in tonight, Marilyn Mosby's defense team has responded to federal prosecutors' request that certain witnesses be barred or the trial be delayed.
The defense says, in part, the government's motions should be denied on their hypocrisy alone. They point to the arguments the feds made against delays when Mosby's team requested and was granted 1 month ago. Mosby's defense tonight is steadfast in pushing for the trial to begin Monday. A judge will sort through the arguments tomorrow. Mackenzie Frost will be at what could be a heated final hearing before the trial starts, and we'll have updates throughout the day.
Well, admitted arsonist Luther Trent has entered a new plea deal for his state charges. Trent was originally released after serving less than 6 months in jail on a plea deal offered by City State's attorney Marilyn Mosby's office. That plea deal was tossed because the victims in the case did not provide their impact statements before sentencing. Tharu Vignaraja, the attorney representing the victims, calls today's sentencing an example of what can happen when people fight for justice.
In so many ways, this is a case study in how the system should work. Local and federal prosecutors working together, the victims' voices being raised and heard by the judges, as well as the people fighting on behalf of the city, and ultimately justice being done. Mr. Trent needs to be held accountable. Mr. Trent needs to be behind bars. The city needs to know that there are consequences for conduct like this, and to know that at least in some instances where people fight, justice can be done.
Trent was resentenced to 40 years in prison with all but 22 years suspended for charges he faces in Baltimore. He's also facing a 12-year sentence in federal prison. He will serve his time in federal prison before coming back to Maryland to serve the remaining time. Trent is appealing his federal sentence, though it's not clear on what grounds.
The Biden administration is monitoring negotiations between the nation's largest railroad freight companies and labor unions. Contract negotiations are stalled. If there's not an agreement by Friday, workers are expected to strike. A strike could cost $2 billion every day to the U.S. economy, as everything from cars to coal to farm and food products could be stalled. That would lead to empty shelves and higher prices, experts say.
We're going to be very honest. A shutdown would have a tremendous impact on our supply chains. As you all know, it's going to have a ripple effects into our overall economy.
Well, that strike could cancel all Mark, Camden, and Brunswick line service as early as Friday morning. Now, CSX owns the tracks, and its unions are barreling toward an apparent work stoppage. If their signal and track workers walk off the job, Mark, along with other regional rail carriers across the country, would have to halt service. Now, we should note Penn line service will not be affected. Fox 45 News has compiled a list of alternative commute options on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Queen Elizabeth II continues her final journey home. Her coffin arrived at Buckingham Palace with thousands of people gathering along the route to pay respects. The Queen will spend a final night there. She will then be taken by a horse-drawn carriage tomorrow to the House of Parliament. There, she will lie in state for 4 days. A funeral is set for Monday at Westminster Abbey.
Ken Starr, the prominent attorney whose criminal investigation of Bill Clinton led to the president's impeachment, has died. Starr wore many professional hats in a career that attracted equal amounts of praise and criticism at times. As a federal judge and government prosecutor, private lawyer, author, even educator. Starr was unafraid, according to those who knew him and spoke for him, to take on new challenges and defend his record against critics. In 2020, he defended former President Trump in his first impeachment trial. He was president of Baylor University from 2010 through 2016 before the board ended his tenure for his mishandling of multiple sexual assaults at the university. Ken Starr was 76. Be the first to know about breaking news by signing up for News on the Go. Go to foxbaltimore.com and click on Mobile Alert Sign Up under the Station tab.
Well, right now, a bill cracking down on street racing in Baltimore is awaiting the signature of Mayor Scott. It calls for stiffer penalties for not only drivers, but spectators as well. Alexa Ashwell looks into whether this bill will be able to keep street racers away.
Revving engines, squealing car tires, and blocked intersections.
Finally, a police car!
For about the past year, street racers joining the long-standing controversial issues surrounding dirt bikes and the the illegal riding of them here in the city.
It's ridiculous.
Baltimore City Councilman Yitzi Schleifer introducing a bill that would allow stiffer penalties for such activity, including a $1,000 fine and up to a year in prison if convicted. The mayor expected to sign the legislation, but with an understaffed police department and city state's attorney already opting to not prosecute certain lower-level crimes, will this soon-to-be law be enforced? Not everyone is so sure.
If the police aren't going to enforce it now, what makes them think they're going to enforce this when there's just another law with a $1,000 fine?
Hagerstown asking for the public's help in identifying people riding illegally. The department writing, while state law only allows us to issue traffic citations for riding on public roadways, we have worked with the state's attorney's office to make the forfeiture of these ORVs part of a plea agreement when defendants come to court on traffic charges. Back here at home, Councilman Schleifer says he's addressed enforcement concern, and much of it centered on confusion on what the law actually is amongst officers.
There's always confusion on the street about, what's the actual citation that would be written in a scenario like this? Is this like a minor traffic infraction? Are those who are participating, is there some type of violation against them, even though they may not be the ones driving a car? This bill really just clarifies it, puts it in very easy text.
The councilman says the mayor will be signing this bill by the end of the month. And that brings us to our question of the day. Do you think the city is doing enough to crack down on dirt bike riders? So far, 99% of those who voted say no. Well, we want to hear from you. Go to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
We have breaking news tonight. A package exploded on Northeastern University's campus in Boston, injuring one person. A university spokesperson tells Fox 45 News that package detonated when a staff member opened it. That person's injuries are said to be minor. Now, the explosion prompted evacuations nearby. Local media reports say a second suspicious package is being investigated. The FBI is on the scene. And again, this is breaking news. As soon as we have more information, we'll update you.
Sell-off on Wall Street today. Stock prices plunging as consumer prices keep rising. The Dow had its worst trading day since June of 2020, falling over 1,200 points. It's the fourth time the Dow has dropped over 1,000 points this year. The S&P 500 and the Nasdaq also had their worst day since June of 2020. Well, tonight, investors are worried that higher than expected inflation will lead to more aggressive rate hikes by the Federal Reserve. National correspondent Altra El-Nashar has a closer look at the numbers impacting your budget.
The highly anticipated August inflation report delivering an unwanted reality check. Getting prices under control won't be easy. While gas and plane ticket prices fell substantially, the relief is overshadowed by soaring costs of medical care, food, and shelter. Earlier this summer, Michael Moore of Lake Worth Beach, Florida, saw his apartment rent go from $1,000 per month to $1,500, a 50% increase.
If I can't make rent, I'd be homeless. They'd kick me, put me on the streets. From what they said, it was their way or the highway.
Some finding ways to be flexible in their grocery shopping, like buying wholesale or private labels. According to Bankrate economist Mark Hamrick, the inflationary pressures driving up food prices are long-term problems.
When we think about all the disruptions that we've had with the climate, and that does affect food supply. Also, those who produce food also have to pay for labor.
The labor shortage has employers paying a premium for workers, but Tuesday's inflation data show that rising prices are outpacing wages, meaning the buying power of the average hourly worker is down almost 3% from a year ago. The president hosting a celebration of Democrats' recently passed Inflation Reduction Act intended to lower energy costs and prescription drug prices. Republicans calling the event Tuesday an out-of-touch victory lap.
With this law, the American people won and special interests lost.
Maya McGinnis, head of the Nonpartisan Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, supports the law, but in a new op-ed says overall the president hasn't been fiscally responsible since taking office and argues the debts racked up by Presidents Biden and Trump make the country vulnerable to higher inflation. Another tough wake-up call could come Wednesday with the release of a second inflation report detailing price pain for businesses. In Washington, I'm Atrell Nishar reporting.
Well, raises approved for teachers in Baltimore County, but the school system doesn't have the money. Why County Executive Johnny O says raising taxes is not an option. A recent poll shows more parents are not happy with their children's public education. The reasons why. And ahead on the late editions of new filings in City State's attorney Marilyn Mosby's federal case, the response just in from Mosby's defense team.
And it will be a cool night as temperatures go from the 60s down to the 50s, but we're in for a nice and warm day tomorrow. I'll let you know how warm it gets coming up in my full forecast.
Well, months after the Baltimore County School Board approved raises for teachers, funding for those raises has still not been secured. So tonight, the teachers union submitted an open letter at the Board of Education meeting. That letter is signed by nearly 3,000 county educators. They're demanding the school system and county government find a way to make these raises a reality.
It's very frustrating that we're still talking about it, that we still haven't resolved this, knowing that we had more than 10% of our unit resign or retire last year, over 1,000 educators. We just need to make this the priority and get it done.
The school system has funding for this year, but not beyond. They're asking the county for an additional $50 million. County Executive Johnny Olszewski says raising taxes on residents is not an option.
Irresponsible of the Board of Education to forward that to me and the County Council. It would be even more irresponsible for us to approve the ongoing cost.
Well, the school board has shared a new funding proposal. The county is reviewing it. A recent poll shows the majority of Americans are not satisfied with their public education their kids are getting. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has the numbers and the reason behind them.
Recent polling shows a 9-point decline in Americans' satisfaction with public K-12 education. Gallup reports just 42% of Americans are completely or somewhat satisfied, a drop from 51% in 2019.
Good, Brayden.
And while most schools experienced disruptions as they adjusted during the pandemic, some parents blame school shutdowns for learning loss.
How we have just erased 20 years of gains over the course of 2 years, thanks to having schools shut down. It's appalling, and it's something that we as parents knew, and now there's proof.
Respondents to the poll cited concerns over the rigor of curriculum, lack of resources, and the failure to teach the basics like reading and writing. Data released by the federal government this month shows significant learning loss due to the pandemic. This year, average scores dropped in reading and math across many groups compared to 2020.
Sadly, the kinds of students who were most impacted were disadvantaged students. For minority students in particular, some of those drops were astonishing. I mean, major double-digit drops.
Now, as the 2022 elections heat up, education has made its way to the campaign trail.
We're going to have education freedom in the state of Michigan. We are going to make sure that parents have rights in education. And everything I hear across the state is that parents want to be supported and know that their voice is heard.
Along with learning loss, districts across the U.S. are facing teacher shortages, leading some school systems to ease credential requirements, something Education Secretary Miguel Cardona says is a slap in the face to the profession. I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting.
Well, in a national survey of public school superintendents, 2/3 say teacher and other staff vacancies are higher this year than last. 85% of superintendents blame the shortage on not having enough applicants. 54% say teachers want better pay, and that's contributing to the small applicant pool. And the same issues are leading to teachers leaving or retiring. 45% of administrators also cite burnout as a reason for these shortages. Now, Fox 45 News is your back-to-school headquarters, and we're committed to investigating any problems that your kids and children run into this year, from teacher shortages to a lack of bus drivers. Call our news tip line 410-467-5595. You can also send us an email at news@foxbaltimore.com or chime in your pictures and videos on the Fox 45 News app.
It has been a gorgeous day today. We had showers and storms yesterday. Today we stayed nice and dry, and now we're seeing partly cloudy skies and cooler temperatures. We sit at 70 over Baltimore with winds out of the west-northwest around 9 miles per hour. Across the state, we're mainly seeing the 60s and the 70s, 63 in Elkton. Then we've got 72 in Annapolis and in La Plata. Those are the two high spots. Meanwhile, Oakland only in the low 50s there. But as we continue to see temperatures drop overnight, we're looking at numbers falling to the 50s and the 60s. So many will need a light jacket in the morning. It won't be too chilly, but by the afternoon, it'll be pleasant with high temperatures reaching the 70s and the 80s. That's going to keep many of us close to average for this time of year, and it'll feel nice and comfortable. Dew points keep us in that comfortable range, but it gets even better as we finish out the week. We'll be in that pleasant range. Not only that, but we're expecting lots of sunshine along with temperatures lower than average. Notice overnight those clouds clear and we'll wake up to lots of sunshine in the morning. Temperatures around 7 a.m. in the 50s and in the low 60s. Then as we head into the afternoon, we're still looking at sunny skies and temperatures around 3 p.m. in the upper 70s and the low 80s. Continuing overnight, we will still have clear conditions. That lasts us into Thursday morning. We wake up to sunshine again, and we keep those sunny skies as we head into the afternoon. So we're really looking at a quiet forecast, not just over the next couple days, but really over the next week. Meanwhile, we're keeping watch on really just one area in the Atlantic Basin. The yellow X has a 0% chance of formation now, but the area in orange has a medium chance of formation over the next 5 days. So that could become our next depression, and that's an area to monitor. 58 for the low temperature tonight with clear skies. And as we head into the day tomorrow, we're looking at temperatures rising to the low 80s. We're keeping low humidity, making it feel comfortable, and we'll have plenty of sunshine. So it should be a great day for spending some time outside or getting any yard work done. Then 80 on Thursday, 81 as we head into Friday. After that, our temperatures gradually start to rise. 83 and mostly sunny on Saturday. Then we rise to the mid-80s on Sunday, so it looks very nice for the Ravens home opener. We're back to the summer-like temperatures after that On Monday and Tuesday, highs reached the upper 80s, in some areas even the low 90s, but we're still expecting plenty of sunshine and we still stay nice and dry. Back to you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Ahead on the late edition, questions still swirling over the safety of Baltimore's tap water. One woman's challenge to city leaders to put themselves in her shoes. Activists and Squeegee kids sit down for a community conversation. Why cameras weren't allowed inside to show the critical discussion. And it's game one of the Battle of the Beltway. Morgan has the highlights of a thriller in Washington that's ahead in Sports Unlimited.
Birds back in the postseason push for a wild card at Washington. They strike first, 2 on in the first. Gunnar Henderson, the rook, singles to right center. Adley Rutschman scores, 1-0 O's. Nats eventually get the lead in the third. In the fifth, though, they're coming back. Ryan Mountcastle's solo shot is 22nd off a familiar face, Hunter Harvey, and they were roommates at one point. Game tied at 3. Later in the inning, Austin Hayes brings in the go-ahead 2-bagger, scores Henderson thanks to a drop, and Felix Bautista gets the save. 4-3 final. A W against the worst team in baseball. The Birds are now 5 games back with 21 remaining. Come December, the 21st name that is counting all the Ravens and Colts cluster will be added to the Ring of Honor. That is right guard Marshall Yanda will see his name hanging permanently at M&T Bank Stadium Week 13 when the Ravens host the Broncos. The soon-to-be, I'm sure, Hall of Famer Yanda played all 13 of his NFL seasons with the team that drafted him, 8 of those as a Pro Bowler. He's a Super Bowl champ and retired after the 2019 season, which was fitting when the Ravens shattered the single-season rushing record and finished 14-2. The Ravens officially placed their starting left tackle from Week 1, Juwan James, on the season-ending IR after he tore his Achilles. The second time for James for that injury Sunday against the Jets. The same roster move for corner and Baltimore native Kyle Fuller. Fuller tore his ACL. That means the Ravens have 2 roster spots open on their active. A quarterback family reunion is set this weekend in College Park, and for the Ravens home opener, that's at 11:30 when Sports Unlimited continues.
The city needs to know that there are consequences.
Ahead on the late edition, another plea deal accepted by Luther Trent. Why the victim's attorneys feels this is a win for justice. And a strong allegations against Twitter's security systems, how your privacy and data could be at risk. Well, we are looking ahead to this weekend as Baltimore welcomes Pokemon fans from all over the country. The 2023 Pokemon Regional Championships kick off this Friday at the Convention Center downtown. Pokemon trading card game and video game players will compete for thousands in scholarships and other prizes. This weekend's events will pave the way to the Pokemon World Championships. You do need a ticket to attend, but children under 5 enter for free.
Our city is on life support. How do we deal with the murders that's happening in our city of Baltimore?
A community meeting with Squeegee kids with no cameras inside, why access to a critical discussion was restricted. Less than a week after a major contamination crisis, Fox 45 takes resident concerns to city leaders. Would they drink the water? The response is ahead. And City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby's trial is 6 days away, but a late-night filing could delay the start of the trial. I'm Kai Jackson. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're following two issues and the push for trust between residents and city leaders. Less than a week after an E. coli scare in West Baltimore's water supply, many now aren't ready to trust what comes out of their tap. And Squeegee kids have been blamed for a series of summer crimes, including the shooting death of a driver at the Inner Harbor in July. Well, tonight, city leaders are holding a community conversation with Squeegee kids, trying to work toward a solution. Jeff Abel leads our team coverage right now. He was at that meeting tonight and shares why cameras weren't allowed inside. Jeff?
Well, we'd like to show you what happened at tonight's meeting, but it turns out the city barred all recording devices from coming inside. It appears many of the Squeegee kids who talked at the meeting this evening had no interest in being on camera.
Our city is on life support.
Kenny Ebron came to New Shiloh Baptist Church tonight with a message of his own.
Here we have one of the biggest churches in the city of Baltimore talking about how to deal with Squeegee kids. How do we deal with the murders that's happening in our city of Baltimore?
The church opened its doors tonight to the mayor's Squeegee Collaborative, a group of business and civic leaders who are attempting to develop a strategy aimed at keeping Squeegee kids out of city intersections. Tonight, they opened the doors to community input.
Today is our first day that we're opening it up to community input. We want to make sure that we're hearing directly from constituents about what they want to see, they don't want to see, and how we can collectively get there.
But barred from this public meeting were cameras and recording devices. City workers kept watch to ensure none of it got recorded.
We have young people who have asked us if we participate, it has to be on the condition that we don't have the media.
The young people said they don't want the cameras in there, but they got elders that's out there saying we don't want our windows washed.
Reverend Willie Ray is a member of the collaborative. Are you okay with them banning any kind of recording device at this meeting?
Not really. I think it needs to be shared. I think the community needs a rude awakening.
Inside, about 150 people listened as 4 Squeegee kids explained why they squeegee. One of them admitting it's tax-free money where there are no rules. Business owner Beth Hawks has attempted to land other jobs for Squeegee kids.
We have a lot of jobs ready for them in either restaurants, construction, all sorts of jobs, and they're just not coming back to where we're, hey, call me, text me, and then I see them on the street corner.
The number one question was, why are we not implementing the laws that's already on a book?
Many people who came to this 2-hour meeting left with questions still unanswered.
I felt secluded, that this was just, a show.
Kenny Ebron believes his message may have fallen on deaf ears too.
We got 242 murders in our city of Baltimore, but yet we out here for 2 hours talking about damn Squeegee children.
Also absent from tonight's meeting was Mayor Brandon Scott. A spokeswoman says the mayor feared his appearance could distract from what they hoped would be an honest and open conversation. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
New tonight, City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby's defense team is responding to new filings today from the federal government. Prosecutors argued the defense missed the deadline to disclose expert witnesses, so they're asking the judge to exclude that testimony. If not, prosecutors argue the trial date should be moved, giving them time to find their own experts. Well, late tonight, Mosby's team responded in a filing urging the judge to deny the Fed's request and for the trial to move forward as scheduled. Tomorrow's final pretrial hearing could get fiery. Well, it's scheduled for tomorrow afternoon. Jury selection begins Thursday. The trial is scheduled to start next Monday, September 19th. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost will have complete coverage from court tomorrow and through the duration of the trial.
Well, admitted arsonist Luther Trent has been sentenced to 40 years in state prison after accepting a plea deal. Trent lit his ex-girlfriend's house on fire last year with his ex-girlfriend and 2 others still inside. 18 of those years have been suspended, and he will only spend 22 years behind bars. Trent was originally released after less than 6 months in jail, thanks to a plea deal from City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby's office. But the plea deal was tossed because the victims weren't allowed to speak before sentencing. Now, the victim's attorney, Thiru Vignaraja, calls today an example of what can happen when people fight for justice.
In so many ways, this is a case study in how the system should work. Local and federal prosecutors working together, the victims' voices being raised and heard by the judges, as well as the people fighting on behalf of the city, and ultimately justice being done. Mr. Trent needs to be held accountable. Mr. Trent needs to be behind bars. The city needs to know that there are consequences for conduct like this, and to know that at least in some instances where people fight, justice can be done.
Well, Trent is appealing his federal sentence, though it's unclear on what grounds.
You trust the water from your faucet?
No.
because of the corrosion in the city, the pipelines.
It's been 4 days since West Baltimore residents were given the all clear to drink their tap water again after a contamination scare. But still, there is distrust in the city's infrastructure, and it's hard for some people to shake. Tonight, Fox 45's Keith Daniels is taking those concerns directly to city leaders, including one woman's request for Mayor Brandon Scott.
Well, the mayor's office tells me the mayor and his administration are working now to try to determine exactly what worked well in that situation and what areas may need improvement. But for one resident, there's other main concerns, and that is her drinking water and her challenge to the mayor. In Harlem Park, skepticism still lingering. Some residents wary of the water in their homes. Families with tentative use of the tap.
I don't wash my dishes with it. I don't drink it.
Lasting reaction after the E. coli water contamination in the area last week. Denise Knight, a 64-year-old woman known in the neighborhood as Miss D, says she too is among the cautious.
I'm not drinking the water yet.
Talking from her upstairs window on Calhoun Street, Knight says she watched news reports of Mayor Brandon Scott lifting the boil water advisory last Friday after test results of the water in the impacted area came back negative. The water in homes cleared for use. But for Knight, she's not buying it.
Because he haven't gave me any facts, any proof. Where is it? I mean, they're still working on the pipes.
But Knight told us one thing could possibly convince her.
I would like for the mayor to drink this water. And if he like, he can come over and have a glass of water with me.
We took Knight's challenge to the mayor, reached out to his office and to council members, including Councilman John Bullock, who represents Knight's district. Sent an email saying in part, this is a serious story as we continue to voice residents' concerns. You are invited to drink the water in the affected area to show residents that you consider the water safe. No council members responded, but the mayor's office did, with a statement from spokesperson Monica Lewis that reads in part, Mayor Scott will not engage in any stunts or theatrics, but rather he will continue to work with his administration to ensure that the random testing and the investigation into what may have caused this incident continues. Meantime, Knight's invitation to the mayor remains open.
Yes, just have a glass of water with me. And you first.
Well, Knight says for now she'll continue to use bottled water. Reporting tonight, Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
And Fox 45 will stay on this developing story and let you know whether or not the mayor or any other public officials decide to drink water from someone's tap.
Man, people come still want the waters. They tell the people they can't get no waters. And they got all them waters sitting over there, ain't doing nothing.
The distribution Friday with the lift of the boil water advisory, and residents are being told they can no longer get that bottled water you see here at this elementary school. Well, today officials told Keith Daniels the water will be packed up and stored for other emergencies. Snow days could be a thing of the past in Anne Arundel County. Why virtual learning days could replace them as an alternative.
And it's been a gorgeous day today with temperatures close to average, but we're looking at the return of heat over the next 6 to 10 days. I'll let you know just how hot it could get coming up in my full forecast.
And Arundel County school leaders are considering a plan to use virtual learning days in place of snow days this school year. A new state rule allows school systems to repurpose up to 8 school days into virtual learning days each year. Parents are worried about losing snow days, but the superintendent says he doesn't want the school year to stretch too far into summer.
I think what you will hear in this plan is that isn't the intent of the school district, but we also have a responsibility to try to not go into people's summer plans while also still allowing for us to deliver instruction, but also make sure that there is built-in time for students and families to also enjoy these inclement days.
Well, public comment on the plan will be open until this Sunday. The school board will vote next Wednesday.
Shocking allegations from a former head of security inside Twitter. I'm Christine Frizzell in Washington with what we're learning about your data and your privacy.
Ken Starr, the prominent attorney who investigated President Bill Clinton, has died. Starr was also a federal appellate judge. He led the investigation into Clinton's affair with Monica Lewinsky. It ended in Clinton being impeached by Congress. Starr was an attorney as well for President Trump during his second impeachment trial. Starr, who died at Baylor University in Texas, was 76 years old. Well, Twitter shareholders have voted to approve the $44 billion sale of the social media giant to Elon Musk, but the company is still shrouded in uncertainty. Christine Frizzell takes us through the explosive testimony from a whistleblower on Capitol Hill.
You're about to give before this committee.
A powerful platform with long-held secrets now exposed to the public.
My name is Peter Zatko, but I'm more often referred to by my online handle as Mudge.
Twitter's former head of security telling lawmakers they've been misled by a company more than a decade behind on security standards, and that Twitter engineers, who he says make up half the workforce, all have access to users' data, including names, addresses, IP addresses, and location data, though tracking those employees' actions and what they were viewing is nearly impossible.
The company's cybersecurity failures make it vulnerable to exploitation, causing real harm to real people.
Zatco's disclosures show not only a willful ignorance by those at the highest levels of Twitter, but a deliberate refusal to act.
We've learned that personal data from Twitter users was potentially exposed to foreign intelligence agencies.
Last month, a former Twitter employee was convicted of spying on Saudi dissidents who used the platform and handing their data over to the Saudi government.
This is a matter of life and death, as we know, for these dissidents.
There is evidence as well of foreign agents from China and India working inside the company. Experts say there are currently not any laws on the books to give the federal government the tools it needs to protect users' data, and that the regulatory body responsible for oversight here, the Federal Trade Commission, is too underfunded and understaffed to enforce the agreements that are in place.
Twitter is routinely ignoring the cybersecurity mandates in its consent order with the FTC and faces no real consequence or even possibility of consequence absent this whistleblower.
A whistleblower shining new light on the direct threat to the privacy and safety of all who use Twitter. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzau.
It has been a gorgeous day. We had rain, we had storms yesterday, all associated with a cold front, but that front has led to nice and dry weather and lower humidity. 68 for the current temperature over Baltimore, and a great view of M&T Bank Stadium in the background. Winds are out of the west-northwest around 8 miles per hour. Temperatures across the state are in the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s. Annapolis, the high spot on the map, currently at 72, and we've got the 50s over in Oakland. Numbers will continue to drop, and by the time you head outside in the morning, we're looking at lows in the 50s and the 60s, so it will be a little bit chilly, but will quickly warm up as we head into the afternoon. 65 around 8 a.m., 70s as we get closer to lunchtime. Then by the afternoon, highs reach the upper 70s and the low 80s. That's going to keep us close to average for this time of year. And look, plenty of sunshine throughout the day, then clear skies overnight. So we're looking at a nice and dry forecast tomorrow, but we're actually talking about an extended dry pattern as we move forward, lasting at least a week. We're also talking lots of sunshine over the next several days and hotter temperatures once we head into the weekend and then into next week. Notice overnight, clouds clear, and we're looking at nice and sunny skies around 7 a.m., temperatures in the 50s and 60s. Those numbers quickly rise to the 70s and the 80s by the afternoon, but we keep the sunshine and the blue skies. We stay quiet and clear overnight into Thursday morning, and then by the afternoon, we're looking at another gorgeous day with those highs in the 70s and the 80s. So really nice over the next few days. It'll feel like early fall, but then we're back to the summer-like temperatures next week. Meanwhile, in the Atlantic Basin, we're really just watching one area. The yellow X has a 0% chance of formation now, while the area in orange has a 40%, a medium chance of formation over the next 5 days. So that's something that could end up being our next depression, and it's an area to monitor. 58 for the low temperature tonight, and will stay nice and clear. Winds will be out of the west-northwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour. And then tomorrow, another very gorgeous day with even more sunshine. High temperatures reach 83, and it won't feel very humid. We stay in that comfortable range. But even after tomorrow, our humidity actually drops. It's going to feel a little more pleasant heading into Thursday. 80 for the high temperature. 81 as we head into Friday. Then over the rest of the weekend, our temperatures do start to rise. 83 and mostly sunny on Saturday. 86 and well above average on Sunday. It looks like it will be a great day for the Ravens home opener. Then we are back to those hot summer-like temperatures as we start the upcoming work week. 88 on Monday and Tuesday, but we still stay dry with plenty of sunshine. Back to you.
Jasmine, thank you. Here's a look at the hearing ahead of her federal trial. We will learn if the trial will start Monday as scheduled. The Baltimore City Council holds a meeting to address a safe transition back to work, as well as an update on the monkeypox vaccine. In Baltimore County Public School, students will have a chance to sharpen their acting chops at the Hippodrome Theater with a master class as part of National Arts in Education Week. Wall Street's woes continue. How today's inflation report is playing into a panic from investors. Here's a look at today's top trending stories. Number one, a day to forget for Wall Street investors. The Dow Jones at one point was down nearly 1,400 points. When the Dow closed, though, and the final bell rang, it was down more than 1,200 points, so a little bit better, but almost 4% of its value. The Nasdaq lost over 630 points by percentage. It was one of the worst days the main index has had. The S&P 500 plunged nearly 200 points. Experts blame today's report showing inflation isn't going away.
Democrats' policies are sucker punching American families every time they set foot in the checkout line.
The Inflation Reduction Act, passed by Congress a month ago, will go down as one of the most important legislative feats in decades.
New report shows inflation is above 8% year after year, well above the expected number after the Fed raised interest rates. Number two, Robert Sarver, owner of the NBA's Phoenix Suns, has been suspended by the league for a year and fined $10 million. Sarver had been in the headlines for workplace misconduct allegations following an 18-year period, including claims of racism, misogyny, even abuse. The NBA commissioner called the findings troubling and disappointing. Number three, Blue Origin's new Shepard rocket is grounded indefinitely, failing during an unmanned launch.
Mission Control confirms New Shepard has cleared the tower and is headed to space.
Well, the company was testing the rocket, which exploded about a minute after launch yesterday. The capsule and rocket separated, with the rocket crashing and the capsule parachuting into the desert. The FAA is investigating and will have final say on when the rockets can launch again. Blue Origin was founded by Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos in 2020, and these rockets have already had 6 missions with humans aboard. Another name permanently placed at M&T Bank Stadium will tell you who's heading into the Ring of Honor for the Ravens. And finally tonight, after more than a century as a women's college, Notre Dame of Maryland, remember it's Notre Dame in South Bend, but here it's Notre Dame of Maryland, is opening its doors to men. It is a unanimous trustee decision. The Baltimore school will begin accepting male undergraduate students next fall. The university noted the number of women's colleges has been on the decline. There are now under 40 in the United States. The school has previously enrolled men in its graduate programs. That's all for us on the late edition. I'm Kai Jackson. Here's Morgan Anson with Sports Unlimited. Hi, Morgan.
Thank you, Kai. The Orioles are back at it after an off day. Quick trip to D.C. to face the Nationals for 2 much-needed W's as the O's enter today 5.5 back from the final American League wildcard. Washington's the worst team in baseball, already eliminated. And while the O's get the Blue Jays 6 more times, they are running out of time after dropping 6 of their last 8 with only 22 games remaining. Here the Birds go at Washington. They strike first, 2 on in the first. Gunnar Henderson. Single to right center. Adley Rutschman scores 1-0 O's. Nats eventually get the lead in the third and the fifth. Orioles coming back. Ryan Mountcastle, his 22nd off of familiar face's former roommate, Hunter Harvey, game tied at 3. Later in the inning, Austin Hayes brings in the go-ahead, gets a two-bagger gift thanks to a drop called a double, scores Henderson, and Felix Bautista comes on out for the save. Orioles winners 4-3 the final. So the Mariners, Blue Jays, and Rays currently hold the 3 American League wildcard spots. The O's 5 back with the White Sox and Twins close. They now have 21 games remaining, with a third of those against the Blue Jays. Come December, the 21st name will be added to the Ring of Honor. Right guard Marshall Yanda will see his name hanging permanently at M&T Bank Stadium Week 13 when the Ravens host the Broncos. The soon-to-be, I would imagine, Hall of Fame guard Yanda played all 13 of his NFL seasons with the team that drafted him. He follows defensive lineman Haloti Ngata, who was inducted last season. December 4th, when they host Denver, could be the second time we see Yanda this year. In October, they will honor the 2012 Super Bowl roster, with some 50 players said to be returning to celebrate the 10th anniversary. Yanda was drafted by the Ravens out of Iowa in 2007 in the 3rd round, 13 seasons, 8 of those a Pro Bowler for the Ravens. Retired after the 19 season, when the Ravens shattered the single-season rushing record and finished 14-2. It's been 3 seasons since the Ravens had Yanda and healthy running backs, with the combination of Lamar Jackson using those legs. And while it was only 1 game, the Ravens' rushing attack was kind of non-existent against the Jets. 63 total yards, an average of 3 yards per carry. While they wait on J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, Kenyon Drake, only days on the job with the Ravens, went straight to RB1. 11 carries, 31 yards, and the hope is to only improve from here.
We still learn the offense, in terms of the angles and the eyes and just assignments and formation, where to line up, routes to run, protections. I mean, there's carryover, but it's not the same, from team to team. It's got better as the game went on, I thought, and started getting a little more confident, in the way his running style and things like that. So, he's a veteran back, knows how to run the ball, still young enough to have a lot of juice. Same thing with Mike. But the run game got better as the game went on, and we've got to keep improving that.
A Tagovailoa family reunion is ahead this weekend. The quarterbacks and brothers even have a chance to be at each other's games. Talia up first when Maryland hosts SMU Saturday. His older brother Tua with the Dolphins, that they come into town to see the Ravens Sunday in week 2. Tua has to get permission to head to College Park a day early. Talia will be at M&T Bank Stadium with his family to finally see these two playing quarterback in the same state, less than 24 hours apart.
It's very exciting. It's the first time we're going to be in the same state, playing. And but the biggest thing is SMU for me, and I know 2 of them they're gonna do good. So we just gotta focus. I think we play on Saturday and they play Sunday, so I gotta do my part first.
That's all for Sports Unlimited tonight. I'm Morgan Atzett. Thanks for watching and have a great night.